Pokemon Legends Z-A was announced several days ago, and with it came a slew of new reveals, notably the 3 starters, protagonists, rivals, other characters, and of course a close look at Lumiose City. Though we've been to this city in the Pokemon world before, and the overall layout and aesthetic seems to be roughly the same as in X and Y, Z-A is taking a page out of other urban setting video games, meaning the Lumiose that we see here will be the map of likely the entire game, and thus is sure to be much more in depth than any city in the Pokemon world that we've ever been to. That's what excites me most about Z-A and what I'd like to discuss today. I've analyzed the official art of what we've gotten of the map so far, and I'd like to run through it, taking a close look clockwise throughout the entire city, and breaking down key details, areas, new additions, or differences from the Lumiose that we last saw 12 years ago. I'll be justifying most of my theories with shots that match up closely to the trailer or other official artworks from the presentation, alongside some analysis of real-world Paris and its landmarks, which is of course the basis of Lumiose City. Though I'll point out a few theories that I have that are just that, ideas of mine for now that seem likely, but are just ideas based on what we know so far. Let's dive into it. We start in the northwest in the Quasartico headquarters, one of the few new buildings from the trailer that was expressly named. Aside from the central prism tower, this is easily the tallest building in Lumiose City, far surpassing the consistent height of the city's more traditional buildings. It's an easy comparison to the real-life Tour Montparnasse, which was constructed in the mid-1970s and has since drawn criticism for being out of place with Paris's architectural style. What's interesting is that the real-life Tour Montparnasse is located in the southwest of Paris, whereas Quasartico is in the northwest, which I think is a deliberate decision. It seems to be on Autumnal Avenue, straddling the border between the Magenta and Rouge, aka Red Plaza sectors of Lumiose City, which in X and Y hosted Team Flare's headquarters secretly in Lysander Cafe. It would make sense that in Z-A, set 10 to 15 years after X and Y presumably, that this part of town would be redeveloped into something new and positive after the collapse of this villain team. Perhaps the government of Kalos deliberately developed these sectors as the de facto tech or industry sectors of the city, similar to how in real life, the western edge of Paris, known as La Défense, is a district known for its technological development and more modern architectural style. This is the least naturey area of the new Lumiose, with plenty of wild zones elsewhere, but not in this sector of the city. Aside from regular old tree-lined streets, we don't see any overgrown plazas, rivers, ponds, or green spaces in this part of town like we see in other parts of Lumiose. So I assume that all of the industry in Kalos has moved over here to support the rest of the city, being more residential and environmentally friendly. Moving along, the sloped building on the Lumiose periphery and the border of Rouge, aka Red, and Jaune, aka Yellow plazas, on Hibernal Avenue matches up closely to the Lumiose Museum, which in X and Y didn't have any plot significance, beyond being able to pay a small fee to see a collection of paintings. Further down, here is the Hotel Richisme, another building from X and Y with little plot significance, besides the post-game looker side quest at least. I wonder why it has a decent amount of emphasis on this piece of artwork though. I suspect due to its height and the fact that we see Swablu on it, this hints at the ability to scale the rooftop, as we know that we can do that in this game, and the altitude means it's home to a lot of bird and flying type Pokemon that we can catch. That's another thing that I would like to discuss throughout this. How I theorize we'll encounter different groups of Pokemon due to the city environment, ruling out a lot of conventional habitats. So it would make sense that most of our flying types are going to be found on the roofs of tall buildings. This is seen again with the main building in the heart of the Jaune district, which seems to be an ornate mall with a triangular glass roof that we see in this great piece of official artwork, which, yes, features the updated Hex Girl. This art could also line up with the other triangular roof in the Blue district, a more corridor-like outdoor mall, but I'll touch on that later. Back to the big building in the Jaune district though, I suspect this one matches up well with the real-life Galeries Lafayette, an upscale department store known for its gorgeous glass architectural style, similar to the one that we see here. I believe this will be the main shopping area in the game, similar to other department stores, and will offer player outfit customization. I think its emphasis on the map also hints that the Jaune district will be the main commercial area of Lumiose City. Alongside this giant mall, we also see Jaune Plaza is the least naturey of the ones that we can see, instead with small tents that I assume are market stalls for further shopping and consumer experiences. Now the Vert or Green district is where it gets interesting. We know that in X and Y, this was separated not by a boulevard, but by an unnamed river, presumably based on the real-life famous Seine River that divides the left and the right banks of Paris. But in the ZA map, we see that this river has been highly modified to add a reclaimed natural habitat, including a beach, a rugged hillside, and several branching paths with smaller bridges going over it. Undoubtedly, this will be the core of the redevelopment plan, expanding natural areas around the Vert district, and probably allowing for the highest natural diversity of encounters. I can see the beach or other aquatic Pokemon around the river, with many of these flat, green rooftops being scalable and serving as areas to both encounter and battle wild Pokemon. Another detail in this district is the train station. Weirdly, it's located here, but might be based on the Lumiose station, which in X and Y was accessible via the TMV pass, allowing you to take it to Kalude City in the postgame, but was located in the Jaune district. Up there, we see a smaller building, but the architecture of the station that we see in ZA matches up much better to this green one down here in Vert. So I wonder what that Jaune district building is. Anyway, we see in the ZA trailer that the first time the player arrives in Lumiose, they arrive via the train, and if I was a betting man, I would say that our hometown will be Kalude City, where the train comes from. I would also wager that while the entire main game takes place in Lumiose, and we have little to no hope of seeing the rest of Kalos, we may be able to go back to our hometown of Kalude once completing the game, maybe to access more Pokemon, since as we know, this is home to the Friends Safari. Again, this one is just a theory, but I doubt they would include the train station just for it to be used in the game's very beginning and then never again. Between the majority of wild spaces and the train station being here, I suspect the Vert district will be the main tutorial area where the adventure begins. In X and Y, this was our first introduction to Lumiose as well, since we entered Lumiose via the Route 5 gate here and visited Sycamore's lab, which was located on the outer boulevard, the border between Vert and Blue Plazas to the left. We can actually see Sycamore's lab here, but strangely it has no emphasis, nor did we see him in the trailer, so I wonder what they're hiding. I wonder why then Quasartico is located completely on the opposite end of town if our adventure begins here. So it must mean that we access the full city right away or soon after, no blackouts necessary. Now completing our circuit, we reach the Bleu, or Blue district, and the Magenta one. These are the most mysterious to me, as they don't seem to have clear themes like the others. Blue has a lot of features from Vert. Expansive green areas, scalable rooftops, even these battle courts where I presume scripted battles will take place. What interests me most though is this area, where I assume the river or a pond was covered up. We have this staircase that leads down to an underground door or entrance, so my wishful thinking is that this could be the entry point to an underground area, similar to the famous Paris catacombs. Since ZA was announced last year, I know many of us have run wild with theories about some spooky catacomb-like area, so if we get one, I wager that it would be here. As mentioned, ZA has the lofty task of creating a rounded Pokédex with basically one habitat type, so this would be a natural way to find some ghost, ground, rock, or even dark type Pokemon that we wouldn't find anywhere else in the city. Same goes for what looks like power grids in the Magenta district. I can only assume this will be a way to encounter a slew of electric type Pokemon like Dedenne, Pikachu, or Heliolisk, since we won't be visiting the Kalos power plants on Route 13. Aside from that, I can't spot any notable landmarks in these districts though, besides the triangular roof mall that I talked about earlier, which could be the location of this artwork in lieu of the businesses in the Jaune district that I pointed out, though I suspect we could get multiple shopping areas, similar to how Lumiose has multiple Pokemon centers. With that, we've explored the entirety of Lumiose City with breakdowns of everything that I can spot at least. Do you have anything in mind that I missed, or do you have any other theories about things that you think you could find throughout Lumiose City? Let me know down below. And I'm super excited to continue theorizing and covering this new entry as we lead up to the game's release later this year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time for more content.